Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hey, what is up, Lock Shoppers? Happy Monday. Hope you had a great weekend. It is go time for another week in The Lock Shop, brought to you by our friends at Coolbet Canada. Dusty still recovering. Patty and Jake doing yeoman's work right now, hanging with the fellas. Boys, how are you? How was the weekend for you all?
Weekend was good. The Buffalo Bills beat the Dolphins. It's always a great weekend when that happens. Bets actually went really well on my end. Got a little greedy in the Monday Nighter, not going to lie. And of course, we could probably get into that at some point. The Monday Nighter did cost us the partner parlay. But as good as my weekend went, or as good as Jake's weekend went, probably wasn't as good as your weekend, Huss. The Bombers punched their ticket to yet again another Western final in the CFL.
Well, they've been chilling. They didn't have to play, which was the beauty thing. I mean, it was the...
Now you know who they're going to play. I mean,
that exactly. And I mean, it's the Riders. It's Bombers Riders, the best rivalry in the Canadian Football League, and it's happening. We had this matchup in the West Final. I want to say, I guess, the 2021 season. And that, of course, was when the season started late, and it was 14 games. So the game was actually in December. And I thought that was the coldest game that I'd ever be at. And then I went to the Chiefs-Dolphins game last year, which blew that one out of the water. It's actually looking like it's going to be pretty nice here. Just looking right now, I think it says like about a high of around 8, which I think most people would take. Now, it is a 5:30 kickoff here, which will be dark by that time now with daylight savings. Just looking to see if we've got a little better. Well, we're getting, it says 11 actually on Saturday on the weather app. So we'll take that. But the bottom line is it sets up for a crazy day. We're going to have Jets and the Dallas Stars play massive game in the Central Division at 2, and then rip straight down to Princess Auto Stadium for the 5:30 kickoff. That will be dominating much of our conversations coming up on WST this week. But yeah, Jake, what about you for the weekend? Like, I kind of was just mid this week. It all came down to the Sunday Nighter. If the Colts had covered that game, would have been a nice 3-1. Ended up just being a so-so 2 for 2 with the best bets. What about you, Jakey? How was the weekend and what stood out for you?
Yeah, my spread betting wasn't great, if I'm being honest. I had some player props that honestly kind of even it out for me. Pats covering was nice. I actually don't mind that they lost either. Like, we've kind of talked about it. They're still near the bottom of that standings, still in a great spot for a nice top pick there in the draft. So, I don't like the Titans. I don't think they're a great team, but, there's some positives coming out of the Patriots. I think Drake Mays looked solid for the most part. I don't know if you guys saw that last play of the game that he just scored a touchdown to get it to overtime. It's a pretty wild scene there for New England. But, yeah, besides that, the spreads weren't great. I mean, Packers got blown out. I wish I had the cojones to take the Ravens after Pat and I talked about it because they ended up doing a pretty easy job on the Broncos, who, we could probably argue are maybe a little bit fraudulent based on their record. The Bills not covering kind of sucked. Yeah, it's just a bit of a battle myself, but overall it was fine. I'm not too stressed about it. It's another week here. We got a Monday Nighter, a couple NHL games. I think every team in the NBA is playing tonight. If you're an NBA bettor, you're probably excited for that. So yeah, a lot of good things to look forward to.
Hey, I just looking at the chat. Big Maple, voices shot from Saturday night at UFC. Let us know how it was. UFC in Edmonton. And how about Jen Cool? If you were not in the DGen Den, you missed out on my epic bet yesterday. KC wins, and we are winning. That looks like 500 to 1 odds. So far, 12 of 13.
I need to see this.
Jen, let's go.
Wow.
Hey, the Chiefs. Do you need the Chiefs to cover, or do you just need the Chiefs to win? I am interested on that. Let us know. Let us know in the chat. Feel free to throw in the chat what the 12 that came in already Nothing better than running the table on Sunday and being right in there, especially, no, I don't want to jinx anything, but especially when you got the Chiefs as your final leg. That's a good position to be in. That is a very good position to be in. Listen, before we kind of dive in to all the NFL, let me just quickly, because we do have the CFL odds out right now. And I had actually posted this on Saturday night, wondering what people thought the line would be in this Rider Bomber game. And I'll be honest, I thought this was going to be around 3. Give the Bombers, the home field. But I mean, they played, the Bombers were 2-1 against Saskatchewan this year. All the games were tight. The Riders are playing, listen, they are a disadvantage because they had to play last week. The Bombers had to bye. Bombers are at home. I think that, I guess, is kind of cooked into this at 4.5. But man, I think this is going to be a really, really tough, close game. It'll be exciting. And, the Alouettes are only 2-point favorites on the Argos. The Argos dropped a 50-burger on Ottawa. They were down 10-0 early. I mean, they had the 2 defensive touchdowns late in the game that took it from 44 or whatever it was to 58. But listen, Chad Kelly looked really good. And I'm not surprised this is such a short number. I mean, the Alouettes -120 on the money line, the Argos at +100, basically even money. And I wouldn't at all be surprised if we get the Argos coming out of this game. Again, we'll kind of focus this on the WST channel this week. We'll definitely be diving into both sides of things on CFL 110. But as of right now, the Argos are a very slight 2-point underdog and even money on the money line. And the Bombers, -238 on the money line, -4.5. The Riders to win on the road, +188. So a big number. And I'm sure there'll be some of those watermelon heads out in Saskatchewan jumping on that line right now. As they, the game is now sold out. They announced that this morning. They were over 30,000 already on the weekend. But I am quite intrigued to see, after the Riders won, how many of those remaining tickets got grabbed by people from Saskatchewan. So anyways, bring them on. It should be a really, really fun Saturday here in the PEG, and working on maybe a little double header contest as well on WST for folks in the area. So check us out on that. Now, just before we get to the NFL, guys, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the number 1 team in the NHL. And yes, it was a week ago that the Jets lost to the Leafs. But I congratulate you guys as members of Leafs Nation. Your team is Brock Lesnar, the one in 21-1 to the Undertaker at WrestleMania. You guys are the one team that has been able to beat the Jets. My God, are they on a run right now? They came right back from that loss to the Leafs, pounded Detroit 6-2, went into Columbus on Friday night, and honest to God, looked like the Harlem Globetrotters at times. I mean, and Columbus had been playing really well. They were 5-3-1 going in. But I think everyone was wondering, okay, how are they going to play when they move up a weight class? And we had Tampa in yesterday. Outrageous. I don't know if you saw Tampa's first goal that was challenged for goaltender interference and was ruled. I don't know what the hell goaltender interference is. There's no rhyme, no reason to the way they do it. But obviously, unsuccessful challenge, bang, power play goal, down 2-0. And then rolled after that against a good Tampa team. So we got Utah and then Colorado and Dallas this week for Winnipeg as they try to stay on top. And what happened to the Leafs actually on Saturday? I actually had bet them. I thought, okay, revenge game against St. Louis. They got pumped at home by St. Louis, Berube's old team. I thought they would sort of step up, and that didn't get the case. Jake, you're on the case. Where are we at here with the Leafs?
I don't know. It's a little frustrating. I mean, you definitely that's the kind of game we thought that the first time around with St. Louis. They're like, okay, your new coach's old team, you're going to play, up a level. I don't necessarily think St. Louis is like a powerhouse team. When we get to the end of the season, I think we can all probably agree with that. And just struggling to score goals. I mean, even last night against Minnesota, and Gustafsson looked really good. They finally got on the board in the power play, but yeah, not the power play has been the big talking point. They moved to 5 forwards yesterday. Tavares, Nyes, Marner, Nylander, Matthews, and they found a way to score. So I don't know if that's going to be the plan going forward. It's it's been a bit messy. And honestly, I say that's the main woe that's keeping them from putting up kind of a crooked number on some of these teams, because they're getting opportunities. They're just not finding ways to put the puck in the net right now. So, yeah, a little frustrating. We'll see. I got a message today from the boys that said Leafs got to go 3-0. I think our buddy Shaner said that. So, yeah, I guess Leafs are going 3-0 this week. That's the only scenario that we'll accept as Leaf fans. So we'll see how that goes.
This is insane. The Leafs are 31st in the league on the power play at 10%.
Yeah, it's awful. It's a tough watch. They've tried everything. They've broken up the unit. They've now overloaded. And I don't know if there's any Flames fans in the nasty chat, but I've seen Flames fans telling a lot of Leaf fans saying that, well, you brought in Mark Savard, and last year their power play was dreadful as well. I don't know how quickly you can fire an assistant coach, but we are getting close to people already calling for his head, or for him to at least hand over the duties. I get it, though. He's trying different things. At the end of the day, it's about the players also executing as well. It's remarkable. But this was a power play that was deadly for most of the season last year. And then as the season started to trail off into the playoffs, especially, it really struggled to score. Kind of more of a big picture thing I want to talk about. The Blues in Berube's first year as well. Let's not forget how bad they were to start the year. They were 15, 18, and 4, and then ended up finishing the year 30, 10, and 5. They're learning how to play defensive, responsible hockey. Matthews sure isn't putting up 2-3 a night, but he's playing a much better 100-foot game. They're figuring things out. For the first time in our career, we see Matthews go out there and stick up for one of his teammates. Marner gets greased by the net. He immediately goes after and starts a scrum. Like, I think we're seeing a little more bite with this team, but we're used to here in Toronto seeing the Leafs blow teams out. Talk to me in a month, and we're still kind of at this point. I think you could probably put up some red flags, but I do really believe that they're trying to learn a different brand of hockey. The defensive back end looks a lot better. Goaltending situation is a lot better than it's been in the last couple of years. So I think long-term, Huss, things look better for the Leafs, but I could see why people are concerned right now.
I just don't know how you could have that much talent on the power play and be at 10%. And we said the same thing about Edmonton, and the Oilers are up to 15% now. But I mean, and listen, the Jets are putting up some insane stats. This might be the craziest of them. And remember, this was like a bottom 10 team in power play last year and in PK. That was sort of the Achilles heel of this team. That 10% rate that the Leafs are clicking at right now, that is the gap between the Jets and the number 2 power play in the league. The Jets are running at 44%. And Colorado's next at 34. I mean, that jumped out at me big time. Well, we'll kind of get into that more on some Jets talk a little later on today. But good news for Oiler fans. McDavid was out skating today at practice. I have a feeling he'll probably be back a little sooner than maybe was originally feared. So let's get to NFL yesterday. And Patty, you mentioned the Bills right off the bat. A nice win for the Bills over the Dolphins. This one was a little closer than I think most people thought. The Dolphins were still able to put up 14. No cover for the Bills, though, which was unfortunate. And listen, let's get right to it. I was on the Cowboys. I immediately regretted that when I saw how things were going. I don't know if you saw the clip of Dak Prescott on the sideline. Yeah. We effing suck. They do suck. That score absolutely flattered the Cowboys, I think. And tell you what, right now you've got the Falcons and then the Buccaneers and then the bottom of the NFC South as dreadful as ever. But how about those Carolina Panthers? They got a win. And it ended up costing Dennis Allen his job. And it's funny, I've never seen Saints fans so happy. They were 2-0. Everyone thought, oh, wow, are the Saints for real? Yeah, they're for real. They're really terrible. They lose 7 in a row, including one to Carolina. And they lose he loses his job. And Pat, we've got another coaching casualty in the NFL.
Can't say I'm surprised. Can't really say that. I mean, the guys on PMT we're talking about, I mean, he has no aura. He has nothing about him that, like, no redeeming qualities at all. Like, it seems like this was an absolute zero of a hiring from day one. Like, could you even pick this guy out in a crowd? Like, it's kind of a long time coming type of thing.
Only
and I know
he's a visor guy.
Exactly. 100%. You take that visor off, he's just a regular guy. This team's awful. They look great to start the year off offensively. They came back down to earth, and something had to give here. Something absolutely had to give. Is Derek Carr the guy? Absolutely, he is not. But at the same time, you're not going to – what are you going to do with him? Chris Olave getting hurt yesterday, certainly – scary for Saint fans. Like, this is one of the maybe bright spots of this team, and he goes down. Sounds like he is okay. It's not going to be anything too serious for him. So I'm not surprised that he gets the axe. It's just, okay, what happens next? I imagine they probably roll with an interim coach for the remainder of the year, but who do they hire? What's the next move? This is a Saints team that, has had successes in the past. They're in a division that maybe a year ago we could say is completely wide open and kind of sputtering. But now you look at the Falcons with Kirk Cousins, they look like they're great. I know the Buccaneers were trending in the right direction, but 2 really bad injuries has kind of messed them up, and the Panthers are a mess. But I think a good hiring here, and then if you go out and get a different quarterback that's not named Derek Carr, like, this team could turn things around pretty quickly. I think the coaching staff really was holding this team back, but more importantly, I think Derek Carr himself is also holding this team back immensely.
They're in cap hell, and part of it is that Carr contract, which has another year on it. It's due like in excess of 50 next year. It is a really ugly spot. I should mention and give a shout out to Dusty. Now, he's been on his deathbed. Maybe all this downtime, he's been in the lab, because Dusty went 4-0 with his best bets on the weekend. That little cover by the Jags at the end got him a Jags plus 7.5. He was on the right side of the Atlanta game at minus 3.5. The Commanders got the job done, winning by 5. They were 4-point favorites. And, of course, that Rams game, which we can get to in a minute. Hell of a weekend for Dusty. And the Jordan flu game, calling the Riders and BC Lions coming off the track. So, so shout out to him right now. Let's kind of talk about a couple of these other games. Let's get to the Rams, because that one was a wild one. And, you could say, I think safely, that Seattle had so many missed opportunities that they probably leave that game thinking, how the hell did we lose that? And then for the Rams, battling back from, like, I kind of thought the Rams were done 2-3 weeks ago. Now, all of a sudden, you get back Puka, who did get kicked out of the game, but Cooper Kupp, defense stepping up. That is such a massive win, because right now, guys, when you look at that division, I mean, it's pretty much anyone's game. The Cardinals are in first place.
I know.
They've won 3 in a row, all by the skin of their teeth, it seems. But now the Rams and Niners are both at 4-4, and the Seahawks go from first place all the way to last place right now. It seems like that division's going to come right down to the end. But Jake, huge win for the Rams, continuing that history of strong performances against Seattle over the last number of years, even on the road.
Yeah, what a crazy finish, too. I mean, I'm sitting there watching it, and the announcer goes, okay, we'll expect Stafford to be a little conservative here. And sure enough, they run a little play action, and he just hucks one deep to Marcus Robinson over his shoulder, one hand. I don't know if you saw that number 27 on Seattle had a rough drive there. I think the first play of the drive is an interception opportunity. He's just standing there waiting for the ball, and he gets cut right underneath by Tyler Johnson. He gets to the outside, and then he's on the coverage there downfield on the one-handed grab over the top. Yeah, it's been pretty good by the Rams here to kind of stay in the mix, getting their guys back healthy. Puka getting suspended yesterday in the middle of the game probably didn't help them, but
No.
Found a way to get a win. It's crazy to me that the Cardinals are on a 3-game win streak. The new Black Ops just came out, and I'm pretty sure Kyler Murray is a huge Call of Duty guy. This is usually the time of the year where you bet against Kyler Murray. Not right now. Him and the Cardinals, like you said, at the top of that division. Should be an interesting path on the rest of the way here, because I don't know how true it is, but they're saying McCaffrey could be ready post-bye week here. And, we could see him as early as week 10, which is coming up. So, if they get McCaffrey back to San Fran and, get their guys healthy, I'm back in on them probably to win the division. I don't know if our futures are up right now, but it would be maybe tomorrow. Would be interesting to look at the division. Oh, no, they're here now. The NFC West, still the favorite, plus 115, San Francisco 49ers to win the division. I mean, if you truly believe McCaffrey's coming back, you're still getting a plus money on San Fran right now. I think they could rattle off a ton of wins. I haven't looked at their schedule, so don't hold my feet to the fire on that one. But that's the team I probably trust the most in terms of winning that division.
Well, you know what's funny about that division in Arizona, and we talked about like the Arizona, like how they won their last couple of games. They could have easily been like 1-7 or 2-6, but they're 4-4. Yesterday, they got their convincing victory. But Pat, I mean, before we talk about the top of the NFC North, that's a really, really concerning loss for the Chicago Bears. I mean, if you think that this Bears team is going to be able to at least compete with the middle of the road teams, they didn't at all. DJ Moore apparently walking off yesterday. They got some internal issues. Like, I know they're 4-4 right now, but when you look at how strong that division is with every other team having 6 or 7 wins, that was a game that the Bears just absolutely had to have. And to be honest, they weren't really in it at all.
No, it was an ugly one. I think that's probably their first really bad loss of the year, at least that I can kind of think of here. They competed with the Texans, I think, offhand. They do lose to the Colts, but at least like that was a tight one. Like, this is the first one where they looked like the Bears. They look like the Bears, a little bit dysfunctional. I know that Cardinals offense, is capable of putting up big numbers, but that Bears defense is better than what we saw. 9 points, though, when you have Caleb Williams and this offense that's supposed to be dynamic and turning a corner. I felt like they not only took one step back, Huss, they took a couple of steps back, and things don't ultimately get too easy here for the Bears. They've got the Patriots next week. So, okay, maybe you want to chalk that up as a win, but the Patriots have been plucky. Then they play the Packers. We know how much the Packers have owned this franchise over the many years. Then the Vikings, then the Lions. Then you get the 49ers, probably with Christian McCaffrey back to the Vikings in Minnesota. Then they play the Lions again at home, then finish off with the Seahawks at home, and then at Lambeau against the Packers. They basically have played no interdivision ball, it seems like, with how many divisional games they have left. I guess that's the good thing. If you're a Bears fan, you have a lot of divisional games in front of you to maybe make up some ground. But with that being said, they're in the best division of football, and having 2 games remaining with the Lions, another 2 games against the Packers, although Packers look like absolute garbage yesterday. It's a tough sledding for this team. It's really tough. You almost, if you're the Bears or the Bears fan, of course you want to compete, but just barely missing out on the playoffs, not really getting a good draft pick. And as you said, Huss, if there is some turmoil, like, that's got to be a concern for Bears fans, considering how good the vibes were maybe 2 weeks ago. Pretty crazy to see where it's gone.
I do wonder if Eberflus survives this season. Like, even though that their record is okay, like, I think they're just seeing enough to realize you've got this window with a number 1 overall pick who looks pretty darn good on his rookie deal. The expectations are high. Is Matt Eberflus going to be the guy that takes them, to be able to mix it up with the other teams in their division? I'm not sure. To me, there's a huge gap right now from those 3 and the rest. I mean, listen, Minnesota got the job done after a pretty ugly first half. But you mentioned the Packers. And Jake, I mean, I'll ask you, Detroit has looked great. Yes, it wasn't their usual 40 or 50 burger they were throwing up, but Goff on the road still 18 of 22, only had to throw for 145 yards because they've got that double whammy of Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and a really strong defense that has been stepping up and showed. And again, the conditions weren't great. I was worried about Love, if it's a groin. I mean, man, you're putting him back out on a slick field. It showed how important that game was. But listen, full marks to Dan Campbell's team that just keeps on rolling right now and are clearly the number one team in the NFC right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the NFC standings, it's the Lions, Commanders, Vikings, Eagles, Falcons, Packers. I mean, it's one of those situations where it's like the Lions to get out of the NFC, and I know San Fran's going to get a little bit healthier, and that might be, the team you're kind of circling a little further down the list, but really feels like the only team that can beat the Lions is the Lions themselves. Like, that's how it feels right now with how good they're playing, right? Like, the AFC is a lot more stacked up top with the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Texans maybe, the Steelers have been good. But when it comes to the Lions, like, they're just rolling through everybody. Divisional games, we talked about the outdoor-indoor thing where, we thought we had a good lean on the Packers. That didn't work out for us. Like, they're just winning football games, and you don't apologize for wins. They're probably they're one of the best teams in the league right now. They're definitely the best team in the NFC as it currently stands. I think for them, it's just a matter of staying healthy. And they probably got home field advantage throughout the playoffs if that's the case, because San Fran's already got 4 losses. I don't know if Washington's going to be the team to get the number 1 seed. It'd be pretty miraculous if they did. I'm still not sure on the Eagles. I think you both kind of agree. None of us are huge Eagles fans.
No.
Vikings, just worrying about that division right now, right? Vikings and Packers. You've taken care of both of them in the previous games. Continue to take care of them, and you're going to have home field advantage. Like I said, I think the only team the Lions got to worry about is themselves right now. Just continue to play their brand of football.
You know what, Jake? I think you're spot on in regards to the number 1 contender to knock off the Lions is the Lions. But I think, and when you look at other teams in the playoffs, that might be able to give them a shake. Obviously, you're right, a healthy 49ers team. I'm looking in that division. I think the Rams are a team that can kind of go toe-to-toe with them. Their defense is much improved, but they also have the offense that can go toe-to-toe with this group. I really, and I know I was on the Rams to start the year. I had them to make the playoffs. I had them on their over 8.5 win totals. Those are, back to life with some of their injuries now kind of taking care of themselves. I think, Huss, you might have had a future on one of those as well. I really do believe that if this Rams team can stay healthy, they might be one of the only teams in the NFC to knock off the Lions. But at this point in time, they are so much better than everyone else in this conference. It's not even close.
You know what? Okay, let's look at who's not in right now. Because, I mean, just as far as the NFC goes, we have the Saints and Panthers, 2 wins. I think we can cross both of them off.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Giants at 2-7. We can cross them off. The next team, and I think halfway through this season, I think we can say it's not happening for them this year, is the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're 3-5 right now. They've got a point differential of -54. They've lost 3 games in a row. They have no running game to speak of whatsoever. Dak Prescott has CeeDee Lamb, but that's it. Their receivers get no separation. It's actually making Dak's job exponentially harder this year. And their defense isn't particularly good. I think, I mean, again, we can't officially count them out. There's still a lot of football to be played. They've got 9 more games, but you look at that landscape of the division, 3 back of Philly, 4 games back of Washington, knowing that at minimum 2 teams are going to be coming out of the NFC North. And I think there's a good chance that 2 teams come out of the West or the South as well, depending on what Tampa does the rest of the way. So
you know what, Huss?
It's pretty bleak for the Dallas Cowboys.
You know what? If you're a Cowboys fan, first off, sorry to hear about your Yankees loss as well. But I almost think it's better off just to let this thing go south, like hit rock bottom. Because is that not what's been one of the things wrong with this Cowboys team was that they look great in the regular season and then they dribble down their leg come the playoffs, or they can't, win in those big spots. And that's why there never has been any change. That's why Jerry Jones hasn't fired the coach. That's why he hasn't gone out to shift things and, rejuggle this core. I think if they go out here, they lose to another divisional rival in the Eagles next week, and then you lose to your interstate rival in the Texans, then you're going up against the Commanders, who are probably, the top team in my personal opinion, not just by standings, but when you look at this team with the eye test in the Commanders, like you lose 3 in a row to 3 teams that the fan base absolutely hates losing to. Maybe finally you get some change. Maybe finally we'll see something with Jerry Jones. You never know with JJ, but man, oh man, I think rock bottom is exactly what the doctors order for this fan base.
Yeah, the schedule doesn't bode well for them, like Pat said. I mean, from there, you get the Giants on Thanksgiving at home. Then you got to play Cincinnati. You get the Panthers, but then you got to finish the season at Bucks, Eagles, Commanders again. Like, find a way to get enough wins to make the playoffs there. They're already 3-5. Like, it's not looking good. If you guarantee a win against Carolina and maybe the Giants, that's 5-5. I don't see them picking up enough wins to even sniff the wild card. So, like Pat said, it might be better for them to hit rock bottom and actually make some real change on this core, maybe the coaching staff as well. Like, how long is the leash going to be with this Cowboys team?
Well, Jake, last week, Huss and I were talking about how good Shedeur Sanders would fit in with the Raiders. How good would Travis Hunter? I would hate to see that guy, but if you got Travis Hunter down in Dallas, Jerry Jones got his hand on him, that would be awesome to see. I hate the Cowboys. Like, I absolutely love seeing them embarrass themselves. But you always talk about good for football. Like, football is better when the Cowboys are better, or at least relevant. Like, they're not even the Cowboys right now. They're not losing in primetime in embarrassing fashion and then beating up teams that they should be. This is not the Cowboys. This is not the Cowboys team. Like, I feel bad for laughing at this team. Like, it's actually getting sad at this point. That's how bad it is. I feel bad for Cowboys fans, and I never feel bad for Cowboys fans.
I'm just happy we get the great Stephen A. Smith Monday morning recaps of what happened with Dallas.
Knowing Jerry, if they get Travis Hunter in there, Dion will be coaching the Cowboys by next season. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens.
I need it.
Someone new's going to be coaching them. That much I can guarantee you.
Those will be the rumors for sure.
Oh yeah,
Mike McCarthy's not surviving this. As far as the AFC, let's give the Bills the AFC East, the Chiefs the AFC West. The Texans, in all likelihood, the AFC South, although I'm still a little rattled from how bad they looked against the Jets. They got a 2-game lead on Indianapolis. It's not quite done. And then, obviously, you've got the AFC North, where Pittsburgh 6-2, Baltimore 6-3, and the Bengals still 4-5. And I think that's a team that's under 500 that we still have to keep our eye on that could be in the mix. But the Chargers getting to 5-3, they're in a great spot to be in the playoffs. And, despite Denver getting absolutely steamrolled by Baltimore yesterday, they've got 5 wins. They're very much in it right now. I mean, if you were doing the AFC playoffs right now, you'd have the Chiefs, the Bills, the 1-2 seeds, the Texans, and the Steelers. Ravens are your first wild card. And then as of right now, both the Chargers and the Broncos getting in, which is interesting. I don't think we really saw 3 teams. Now, there'll be a lot of divisional play. That'll be tough to get. But it's a good little head over to the futures. And we can spend some more time on this tomorrow. Bills minus 10,000 for the AFC East. Chiefs minus 5,000. Falcons now minus 1250. So that's pretty much done. They're still posting the Texans at minus 1429. This is around the time last year when we got on the Texans at a big number and they ended up coming back and winning. Listen, Indy did not look good last night. They were going up against a really good Minnesota defense, I know. But I will throw out there at 11-1 and only 2 games back of the Texans, that is not out of the realm of possibility. Baltimore's minus 213. Pittsburgh plus 225 at that spot. And again, the Bengals 10-1, but they'd have to pretty much run the table. What do we have for the NFC East? So Philly is the favorite at minus 154. Even at 7-2, the Commanders still getting plus money on that division.
I like that bet. Huss.
I've got a lot of time for Washington and what they're doing. And no surprise that Dan Quinn is the favorite for coach of the year. Thing is, with the Washington and their schedule, they don't have a lot of beasts in the second half. I mean, it's not like now they're going up against all these top teams. I mean, they can take advantage of it and do it. As far as Super Bowl, though, goes, Chiefs are down to 4-1. Baltimore and Detroit plus 575. And then the Bills at 9-1. Niners 10-1. I'm a little surprised that the Lions number isn't shorter right now, to be honest. I mean, obviously you're going to give the Chiefs the benefit of any doubt possible. They still have a much tougher road, I think, to get through, to get to the Super Bowl. And I mean, to me, the Lions right now, if you're looking for an NFC team, I think you could do a lot worse than plus 575 on Detroit right now. Anything stand out to you amongst that list of teams that you think that are somewhat live that, maybe have a bigger number than we thought?
I mean, it depends on how much you believe in them. The Falcons 30-1 still. They're probably winning that division with how banged up the Bucs are. I just how much you do believe in Kirk Cousins to go into the NFC playoffs and play his way to a Super Bowl. Tough to say, but I mean, that's a number that definitely stands out. I think that's a team that's probably winning their division. The Steelers at 30-1. I think Baltimore is still a favorite to win that division. So a lot different. The Steelers, were kind of favorites to win their division, but the Falcons are pretty heavy favorites to win their division, and 30-1 to win the Super Bowl. It's a long ways away, but not an awful number there.
I know it's any given Sunday, and if you get in, anything can happen. Bengals at 35-1. This isn't the same Bengals team that we're used to. The defense is not the same. And I placed, a few weeks ago, about a month now, I placed a bet on Joe Burrow just on a flyer because his odds were so high to win MVP. I really, don't feel great about that because even if they do get in, there's still a lot of other guys. To be honest, fellas, I think there's maybe only 5 teams that can really win the Super Bowl this year.
I think you're right.
I think it's the Chiefs. I think it's the Ravens. I think it's the Lions. I think it's the 49ers. And then maybe by default, you could put the Buffalo Bills in there. But the Buffalo Bills, just the path that they'd have to get there is so difficult. But I think it starts and ends with that list. Are the Eagles, Jake, you've heard myself and Huss go on enough about how fraudulent this team. They couldn't cover again yesterday. AJ Brown goes out and they can't move the ball anymore. Once again, as a favorite, they fail to cover the spread. They're fraudulent. They're absolutely fraudulent. The Packers, we have to see what's going on with Love's health. The Texans, we saw it on full display. With their injuries, they are nowhere close. And the Commanders are kind of what the Texans were a year ago. Great story. Love to see them go on a run. But at the end of the day, it is so difficult for a QB who is a rookie to go on a run. You mentioned the Falcons already. We love Kirk O'Chains, but we know what happens when push comes to shove with that guy. I don't know if he's got enough to run it. And also, I just don't know if the Falcons are on the same platform as those other teams I mentioned at the top.
I'm sort of with you. I mean, I see those top 5 teams, KC, Baltimore, Detroit. I will include Buffalo. I mean, I think as long as Josh Allen is playing the way that he is right now, they certainly, I mean, I could give you a reason why they could win. I mean, I think they're less likely than those other teams, but I think they are one of those clubs. For me, Jake, and I get, Atlanta at 30 is somewhat intriguing. a healthy Texans team could potentially get into that mix, but they're not getting Diggs back. Collins is going to be a while. As good as Mixon's been, their defense is going to need to be stepping up. Out on Philly, as you well know. Even with yesterday's result, we're at midseason. I think there's a lot of room for the Packers to improve, and I still think that they have the talent that come playoff time, they could pull an upset. I don't think they're afraid of Detroit or Minnesota or those other teams. They just know that they got to be better than they were yesterday. But that's sort of where we're looking at right now. Other things that are up right now. Oh, Josh Allen's now actually the favorite in the MVP. Look at that. Plus 270 for Allen, 3-1 for Lamar, 7-1 for Mahomes. And look at that Jared Goff number. It keeps on coming down. And guys, I told you a couple of weeks ago, like with how good his team is playing, and has he had to go for 400 yards in a game? Nope. But he's completing literally everything. He's not making the mistakes, and they're winning games. And listen, make no mistake, there is voter fatigue, certainly for Lamar, because he's made the voters that voted him the MVP twice look bad when he shrunk in the playoffs. Obviously, Josh Allen's there. And listen, Mahomes might, if they continue to win, Mahomes is going to get consideration, but statistically, it's not close. And I don't think it will be at any point. So
I also I know Allen's sitting there at plus 270. And of course, obviously, I'm the card carrying member of the Josh Allen fan club. I love the guy. But it's either you love him or you hate him. Like there's not too many people who are like, yeah, Josh Allen's all right. There's either Josh Allen is superhuman and he's the best football player right beside Patrick Mahomes, or he's overrated and he's turnover pro. Like, so I think you are totally right with those top three guys. Two of them have fatigue. Yeah. The other, it's kind of a split narrative on them. And Jared Goff, if they run away with the NFC, and his numbers look great, and he's a great story, I think that is a very, very good chance that we see Jared Goff as MVP. I really do.
It's the best value on the board. And I think we were talking about it before. We were kind of having this conversation at like 10-1. The fact that they won that game, they've got a stranglehold with wins over Green Bay and Minnesota already. Guys, this team could be 15-2. Oh, they could be 16-1. I don't think they're going to be favored in every one of their games remaining. I think. So, anyways, that's something to look at if you are in on the MVP. Just mid-season favorites: T.J. Watts minus 159 for the Defensive Player of the Year. Chris Jones 9-1. Like to see that. Dan Quinn plus 200 for Coach of the Year. Whoa, Andy Reid. You don't see Andy usually mentioned there, but they are finding a way. So the full slate of futures are up right now. Derrick Henry minus 164 for Offensive Player of the Year. I see Saquon Barkley's 3-1. How about that play that Barkley did yesterday? The spin move,
unbelievable,
and then reverse hurdle. I've never seen, like, you can't even do that in Madden.
No, it looked like a glitch in Madden. Like you see, like where the guy jumps 1,000,000 feet in the air and does a somersault. Like that was insane. For as big of an Eagle hater that I am, and I love logging on to Twitter this morning, seeing that Eagles Twitter is after a win still wanting to fire Nick Sirianni. All of that,
Philadelphia, yes,
the best.
All that aside, I can't hate on Saquon. He is so much fun to watch. And those jerseys are some of the best.
The Kelly Greens.
Oh,
yeah.
Kelly Greens
so nice.
are unbelievable. And that play, for him to be wearing that jersey, like that will go down in infamy in his career. When he goes into the Hall of Fame one day, that clip will be played. I hate a lot about Philly. I respect how crazy their fans are. I hate a lot about them, but I can't hate on Saquon. The guy's an absolute beast. And actually, did we even see MVP odds on him? Probably very, very far down the board. If so, if the Eagles can turn things around and shove it up my face and win that division and continue to play like they've been playing, I'd be considering maybe throwing a sprinkle on him I know we never see running backs win, but the numbers that he's putting up are absolutely insane.
I mean, if you like Barkley, 3-1 right now, offensive player of the year. He's behind Henry. Henry's minus 164.
That might be the better. That actually might be the better plan of attack, because the MVP, we all know, has turned into the top quarterback award. I think that's maybe where I might stake my claim. Give him.
I want to vote. You know who's the MVP? Jason Kelce. After handling his business in the parking lot. Shout out to Jason Kelce. That guy, I would have loved that guy to just get a nice big backhand across the face, but certainly deserved it. And that loser from Penn State has now fired up Eagles fans, Chiefs fans, and Swifties. Three of the most powerful groups.
It's
probably
true.
Time to log off for good, eh?
In the universe. Guys, quickly, before we run, let's get to tonight's tilt. The Chiefs, 8.5-point favorites right now against Tampa, minus 400 on the line. Do I expect the Chiefs to win? Yes. Am I still a little burned from that late backdoor touchdown that the Raiders covered with the week before? Yes. The Chiefs really don't care about covering spreads. However, this is a big Monday night game. The bright lights. Tampa beat up without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin. I will say this. I certainly like the over a half interception prop for Baker Mayfield tonight. I think he's going to have to throw it all day. I'm not sure how he's connected with the other guys. We don't have the touchdown scores. I'm sure those will come back up a little bit later on. But, I mean, normally I think I might even take the Bucks. But I think with the scenario in this one, maybe the Chiefs actually do have a comfortable victory. And, we don't have to be sweating it out in the fourth quarter. Where are you guys at on the spread?
I think Patty's already got the Chiefs.
I already got him. I'm kind of pissed off that I already bet it at -9 because now it's dropped down to 8.5. I talked about it on the show on Friday, but I'll run through it again. Baker Mayfield is 0-6 against the spread in his last 6 starts on Monday Night Football. And the Chiefs, you said it. Oh, everyone always talks about, hey, they never cover these big spreads. They never do this. They care about winning. Partially true, but they're also 3-0 against the spread in their last 3 primetime games. This is a flex your muscle spot. This is an opportunity for the Chiefs to remind everyone that they're still the top dogs. Everyone's talking about the Lions. Everyone's talking about how, this Chiefs team, it's built off the back of the defense, and Mahomes isn't playing great. Well, this is where Mahomes goes out and puts on a show. I really believe that. Kelce finally got his first touchdown of the year last year. I think we're going to get a big game out of him. I think we get a big game out of both tight ends, actually. But this is a Chiefs remind everyone that they're still the top dogs, and Patrick Mahomes is playing a big role in that as well.
I like where you're at. I will tell you when the props come out, I will be getting on a Kareem Hunt touchdown. I'm looking at the receiving yards. I think I might be putting a little touch on DeAndre Hopkins over 44.5 now that he's had a full week of practice. Mm-hmm. A little more comfortable. Got a few balls in the Raider game. Kelce's 60.5. He's usually comes up pretty big on Monday night, so I think both of those guys are probably looking pretty good. Not so sure about Xavier Worthy at 36.5. And they are listing Noah Gray at 21.5. I could see overs on all 3 of those guys, to be perfectly honest with you. Noah Gray, Hopkins, and Kelce right now. But Jake, before we run, any thoughts on this game or any of the props that are out there that you're going to be on?
Yeah, listen, if you're a trends person, we know our guy Rod Z's always got the trends rolling out. I got one here, actually a couple that lead towards the same thing. Bucks, 6-2 to the over this season, and they've hit 5 straight overs. Monday Night Football overs are also 8-3 this season. I led Patty astray yesterday with the over in Sunday Night Football. Turns out Sunday Night Football overs actually have been the worst in terms of primetime overs this season. The rest, Thursday, that one Friday game we got in the Mondays have actually been pretty solid. I believe 14-6, but Monday nights have been like 2-6 or something along those lines. I was reading some stats earlier. I think I'm going to play the over. It's already jumped from 45.5 up to 46. I don't know how much that means, but that's probably what I'm going to jump on tonight. Hope for some fireworks. The Bucs had a huge fireworks game against the Ravens. I believe it was a Monday nighter not too long ago. So obviously Baker doesn't have his usual weapons, but maybe it's one of those nights for Pat to just remind the league, like, hey, I might not have been my prettiest statistical season. I can still put up the numbers when need be. So I'm going to jump on the over, and I don't know if I really have much else from there. You were talking about Kelsey. I don't mind his reception number. I think it was 5.5, minus 139 to the over. I don't mind that. He's been worked back into the offense here a lot better. Him and Pat have a great connection. So that might be where else I go. But I don't know if we're going to try to build a partner parlay here. We got about 5 minutes. Is there anything on the board you like, Huss, in terms of props? Get something going?
Well, as I said, I think DeAndre Hopkins 44.5 on the over is something that that I'll be playing for sure. Listen, I like a bunch of those receiving props for Kansas City. The rush yards for Kareem Hunt 64.5. That's a little high, but as I say, I like him to get in the end zone. Oh, is touchdowns? No, that's just total. We don't have the TD score yet, but you know what? For me, let's go DeAndre Hopkins over 4.5.
44.5.
Over 44.5.
Pat, anything you want to include? And maybe we'll add the over in there. I'll take the blame if we can't get the points.
Well, I'm never against the over, even though, hey, it didn't work last night. I'll run it back. There's no problem with that. It's a primetime game. I've got my Patty's parlay. I don't know if it's up yet, Jake, which included.
Not yet, but it'll be there.
Yeah, it'll be there. Included, obviously, field goals. Baker Mayfield over 50.5 rushing yards. And then I believe there was a touchdown scorer in there as well. Like I said, I think I like Cade Otton. Obviously, there's a lot of guys out of the lineup for this Bucs team, and Otton's kind of been a comfort blanket for this offense with Baker Mayfield. So him at 51.5 does seem like a lot, but man, they've been using him a lot, even when those other guys have been in the lineup. His receptions right now, 4.5 at minus 208. That's probably going to bump up to 5.5 at some point. I'd probably lean maybe more of his receptions, but minus 208 that's pretty steep. I'd be okay with either juicing it up to 5.5 or just go with the 51 yards. Cause I mean, you just look at his options. He doesn't have much, and Otton's having a pretty solid
Baker goes
year.
to that guy all day. He was like 8 for 100, I think. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, Patty said we're good. Do you want to just conclude the over there, and we can do the two receivers and the over? Sorry, I was just going to go look at Otton here and see.
Sounds good. So over now it's 46.
Probably just take it down to a half, right? 45.5.
Hey, over 45.5 is even money right now.
Explain it's just the one that's
that one. Well, there's your little there's your jump on at Lock Shoppers if you want. Before that's going to change, obviously, because it doesn't make sense that over 45.5 is even money, and over 46 is minus 104. But regardless, let's go with 45.5 for the parlay, and then the over yards for DeAndre and for Otton. And I'm just gonna sprinkle a Baker Mayfield interception as well into the mix. Minus 133 over 1.5. We'll get that up in the exclusives. I'm gonna wait for these touchdown scores to come out and then jump on one of those guys for a play of the day, I think. Keep your eyes on the Coolbet socials for that. Fellas, good stuff. Enjoy the Monday Nighter tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good luck to Jen and the Chiefs for 13 of 13. Looking for a big victory lap from you tomorrow right here. So good luck to her, and shout out to everybody in chat today. WST is coming up right now. Of course, EST programming continuing here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Enjoy Monday Night Football tonight in the Mahomes Show. We'll see you tomorrow in the Lock Shop, everybody.